So this right here is the bearing retainer, okay? This is all part of one part. There's actually the seal in here, and then there's a clip that holds this in, which I'll be able to show you later, all right? What happens is your fork clips in there, and this center of this bearing actually rides on there, and it moves in and out to depress your clutch, okay? Okay, so that's kind of a similar sound. What happens is this thing is in here. It spins around on the shaft when the shaft is spinning. And then, you know, this will still work. It's not leaking. It does make a bad noise, and it should be replaced. You can take a look at this, kind of. You can see what that looks like. Now, to replace this, the gear set needs to come out, and that actually gets pressed from the back out of the case, and then you press the new one in from the front. So right now I'm going to show you what you need to do to tear everything down to install a new bearing retainer. So here we go. The 10 mil to take that out. We're going to hit all of these right here. Now I'll say this right now, just so nobody says anything. Technically all you have to do is pull your shift selector plate and then the ends of the transmission and pull the whole gear set out, and then there's 2 Torx bolts down in here, and then you can press it in. All right, being that I'm tearing this entire thing down, it's going to make it easier for me, one, to clean this case off because it is pretty gross. This whole thing is covered. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm cleaning the whole case. I'm going to remove the speedometer sensor housing here. I'm going to remove the diff cover. I'm going to take the diff out. I'm also going to, and then I'm going to be removing the shift selector plate, okay? It's just going to make it a lot easier. Everything's going to be apart. I'm going to pull the gear set out and just set it on a towel. Just give it a quick look over, make sure there's no contaminants in there. And then set it off to the side, and then I'm going to pressure, or I'll clean the case down. It won't be pressure washed. I'll put it in probably in my parts washer, and then I'll just clean all the dirt and everything off of this so that it's a lot nicer to reassemble and seal up. Okay. So, but first we're going to take this. These are all. All right, there we go. Make sure you don't lose this because you're going to need it. It pushes against the bearing and holds that in place. You can see that this has probably never been apart, or whoever used it, they at least reused the correct sealer there. Now, we'll come up here to the top. Put us in neutral, hit all these. Okay, now, where we're at, this last one here, you got to do that one by hand. So I'll wrench this, and then I pop up on this a little bit, and then till this one's completely out, and then I'll have my selector plate off. All right, so basically I just I went under here and I pushed up a little bit like that, got it to pop. Did the same thing back here. You can use a flathead screwdriver. You don't want to go in between these surfaces and pound something in there, because you'll disc shape it and make it hard to get out, or you'll actually cause a leak, is what I want to say, because you're going to damage the mating surfaces. So this is it. The joy of removing this thing. All right. Well, we have a 3rd gear extender in this one, AGP. All right, so there you go. You can see down in. All right, there's that. Now the next thing we're going to do is basically I'm going to flip this up, and I'm going to put a hammer or something underneath here to hold this up, and then we'll pull this rear diff cover off. Yeah, I was going to say, most of the time these are missing, or they're right. Now here's something I like to see. Not really. Let's see if you can get this on the camera. All right. See that wipe down in there? It looks like it's wrinkled. That is from someone incorrectly trying to replace the seal on the transmission and then damaging that part down in there. So what I'll do is I'll probably try to straighten that out the best I can. As you can see, we had clean there, so it must have been leaking. I didn't really look at this one, but yeah, you can see it could have been out of the speed sensor, but this side had a bunch of fluid leaking. I have some pictures I can throw in on that one. Cheating if you want, but all of these bolts are usually a different size. I have another case part here, so I can just pull these out and then stick them right in the holes that they came out of, which will help me when it comes time to do this reassembly here. On this, here's a good one. You can see, look at that, big difference. So you got to make sure you have these in the right place. And I'll have to clean these bolts up before I reinstall them. Okay, right there's our differential. Everything looks good and clean. Not much mess there on the magnet. Like I said, but we'll be cleaning all that up anyway. Now we can actually, I'm gonna grab a rag, make some room. All right, now we're down to, we got to pull this plate here for the Torx bit, and then we'll be down to pulling these, which are the 13s, and they're on the inside edge. We got all them out with no problems, amazingly. And then this is a steel cover, so they pop up pretty good. Just kind of catch your edge. All right. They want to make sure to lift these straight out, because these direct the gear lube or whatever you're using in your trans to lubricate it down through the center of the shafts. All right, so we got this little tool here. If you look, it spreads apart and it has like a little notch. So we want to take that, put it down in here. Sometimes these pop right off. Next time I'm kind of arguing with them. So it's kind of a two-handed deal. Sometimes I'll get in here and get behind this with a little pick, and then I can kind of work it up without damaging the snap ring, which is what that is, or a snap clip. So I have to get this one and this one out, and then we're going to work on getting these plate bolts here out for the rest of this case, and then we'll gently tap on this. There's a spot here you can tap on a little bit, and we'll get the rest of this case separated, and then we'll be down to just getting the bolt for the reverse gear. So here's our two snap clips. The larger one of the two, you can see, goes in the back. This one goes in the front. Or actually, this is the input shaft and this is the output shaft. We got all of these bolts here, actually all came out nicely. So let's start giving this thing a whack. It's weird. Looks like it's sat for a while. Now there's one more thing that you have to do. Besides get yourself more dirt on you and grease. Alright, so as I said, this is output, this is input, this is your reverse idler gear. There's one more bolt right down here. This does come out hard. It has Loctite on it. All right, gear sets out. This is what it looks like out of the transmission. You can see from that rubbing, there is some wear right through here. Not that that's anything bad. That's just normal. There's actually some wear in this bearing right here. I mean, the forks and stuff look all right. Actually don't look too bad. I mean, I've always liked to say I'm not a transmission expert, but you know what I mean, there is a little bit of like wipe wear on some of them. These down in here, that's where you actually shift on, is right here. I don't see anything jumping out at me right now, but I'm looking at it pretty far away, and so are you with the camera. No wear on the, I mean, the input shaft looks pretty nice right here. No real wear in the teeth. So, I mean, it looks like it's a pretty good transmission at that point. Okay. So now, this right here is the seal slash bearing slash retainer right there, okay? We need to put this onto a press and push this down out. But before we do that, we need to flip this dirty thing over. And there's two bolts here that are Torx. Oh, it looks like the, where'd it go? Gotta love it when this stuff happens. Right here. I don't even know what this is. Look at this. Some really poor install here on the pivot ball. Some kind of an aftermarket pivot ball. I did find the orange stuff that you put on the back of that's disc brake quiet. That was on the fork to hold the ball on. So hopefully the aftermarket ball we got will fit into that, because that's definitely not something I want to reinstall. Here we go. These are the little Torx you got to pull out. Then you pull that retainer plate out. Okay. I'm going to go put this thing in my press. Whew, man, that is pretty nasty over there. I got to get that stuff cleaned up. Probably grind out a little bit. Hopefully. Man. That is just disgusting looking. Alright, so shut the camera off after I kind of noticed that. I kind of picked that a little bit with a screwdriver. If you take notice back here, it's kind of flat back here. And this is kind of really pushed down. I've never, this clip, it even has the clip damage that goes around that holds this together. Let's pop this off here. Here's our little rubber seal. It's supposed to be on here. Alright. Now here's this pivot ball. They had this thing down in there. And it's actually tilted that direction, which I believe that's what led to this actually breaking. I got a new aftermarket one. I'm going to set next to, you can look at that. That hole is oblonged. It's not round no more. It's actually bent down. And this side over here is actually crushed down a little bit more. Right down in there. So I'm going to grab the new one that we have and just set it side by side so you can see what that looks like. So this is what was provided. All totally different looking. Look at this. This thing is huge compared to that one. Like, I don't even know what this one is. You can see the difference here. Like, that wouldn't even go down in there straight. Like that. But anyway, I've just come to the conclusion there. I'm not going to risk installing this, installing that, resealing this entire case when that looks like that, since I have the opportunity to just use another, I'll just use a whole nother case from a transmission. And then that's almost like, yeah, that's welded on there. They welded that ball onto there. It looks like it has an Allen head through the back too. That thing is worn and junk. Oh, here's a stock one also. It's about the same size as a stock one. It's just it didn't look at the surface area where this actually gets to push against the case. This one is much larger, very similar to this one. This one here is actually a little bit bigger, it looks like. But this surface area, there's a lot of pressure on there, man, when that's forks in there pushing on that. So that's why this thing made a mess. It's like indented. It's indented there, and it's bent this way. It's bent down toward this direction. And you can see it actually, like this thing must have been coming in and out. And you can see that it was doing this. And then it was turned like this a little bit. Look at that. This thing was in here turning back and forth. Just making a mess, destroying the case. And that being off center, I guarantee is what caused the extra pressure on this, which caused this to break. I mean, I've seen them break, but that's not something that happens too often. So we're pulling out another case, even though we took the time to clean this one up. It did come out okay. It was pretty dirty. So it just, yeah. That was caused by someone's negligence and improper. Phew, man. The fork was freaking hitting down in there. That's pretty wild. Well, new case time. Well, a wonderful GoPro. Let me down again. So, we have the case all cleaned up. We installed the steel pivot ball. I just pressed the bearing retainer back in, and we got those bolts Loctited. Everything here is cleaned up and ready for reassembly. So, the first thing we got to do is double check and make sure that everything is clean inside where we're going to be putting the gears. The shafts, where the shafts go. All right, that looks like there. Just double check everything out. You can see, like, I put grease on the inside of here and my seal just so that nothing starts up dry. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this bearing here. I'm going to put a thin coat of grease. I don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way. It's just the way I do it. I'm no transmission expert. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to put a little bit of grease in this one, a little bit of grease in here, just so we don't have a dry startup. All right? That is the game plan. And then I'll wipe that stuff down, double check everything, and then we'll drop the gear assemblies all down in, along with the reverse gear, which goes here. And then we'll get that one special bolt in there with some Loctite so that that's in place. Then we'll get this end case part put on, so we'll have anaerobic sealer the whole way around this. Right here. Okay. So I'm going to get this picked up and get that put in. Alright, well, we felt the need to get this thing painted up black. Kind of works out good like this. Everything was assembled, everything was sealed, double checked, made sure everything spun good. Yeah. All right, battery died yesterday, and I did get some footage on my cell phone, so I have all that put together. Here is the transmission now. I used gloss black because that was what I had. We just kind of sprayed everything down. I left it sit overnight so it would dry. I got to get the speedo housing installed, clean up the rest of that stuff. This thing's just going to get, it'll just get sealant around here. We have to install one of our new seals right here. I have some of those right here. Here we go. Look at that. Brand new seal to install there. What else? Yep, there's our speedo. You got to make sure you put your shim back in before you install that. But everything here looking quite nice. and ready for install. So let's get this stuff here taken care of. Like I said, I pull these off. I like to fill them full of, I always fill the back sides full of grease. This is just what I have. It works fine. If you can see in the bag there is actually some red grease in there. You don't want to start these up dry. So we're going to do the same with this one. This seal here was not leaking. The other side was. So we're just going to stick one seal in here for now and hope everything's good to go. All right, man, we got speedo housings installed, the sensor. We installed the fork. I had to clean up a little bit of damage on the back of the fork, but it is what it is. It's going to work. New throw out bearings put on. We have our new seal in here on this side. Debating whether I'm going to swap this out, but we're going to call this transmission finished up and done. We did what we could for paint. We need to get this thing installed, so we're not going to worry about that too much, but you're only going to see this little bit of an area here, and that's going to look good. So up, connected to the hoist, and going in.